Hey guys, Altaviz Pelzer here, your voice manager. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. I feel like it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. Okay, it hasn't really been that long, especially with this Power of Why series, guys. It's been absolutely phenomenal. Have you been tuning in? Have you been listening? Did you take notes? Let us know, because guess what? We want you to come and join the conversation. bit.ly/World Voice Community. Come join the free Facebook group and let us know how this episode or previous ones resonate with you. With that being said, let's take it back. Let's take it back to the old school. Let's take it back to, I know. I'm just coming at y'all with all the hits today. But when it comes to the power of why, we got to talk about the starting point for some of us. You know, when it comes to, the thing that sparked everything for you. And some of you have been listening to the podcast for a long time, so you know that I had to start in writing poetry before I wanted to write and start publishing books, but not everyone. So we're going to talk about that today and how that kind of transformed my why, but also I'm excited about my guest as well. So, hey, Kimberly.
Hello.
I am excited to have you on today. Tell the studio audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go ahead and dive into today's topic.
Okay, so my name is Kimberly Lawson. I am the lead consultant for Lawson-Learning-Academy. So basically, I am a business coach and strategist. I'm also a podcast host and an international best-selling author on Amazon.
Yes, come through, come through. And so I was looking at your bio and smiling because of that silver thread that goes through a lot of people when they realize they start publishing books later in life. They started with a little bit of poetry. And I wanted to start there because I wanted to ask, was that like your starting point? Was that the thing that really sparked you to say, I kind of like writing? I may not always like English, but I kind of like writing.
So honestly, I actually started writing one-act plays. Before I was writing poetry, I was writing one-act plays, and I was like 6 years old. And so I used to just write one-act plays all the time. And then I was introduced to poetry in school by my English teacher and fell in love, like absolutely dived head first, had a whole Love Jones with poetry. So, but I started with one-act plays.
Oh my goodness, I absolutely love that. And so it was interesting because a lot of times when we think about the power of why, there's something in our childhood that kind of sparks it. And it doesn't have to be a big spark. It can be something small, but it's that small thing that when we look later in life, we look back, we're like, that's where it all started. It was right there. Now, do you remember your teacher's name?
So the teacher, and it's funny, the teacher that introduced poetry to me that really made me fall in love with poetry, her name was Miss York. And oddly enough, when I had her, she was pregnant with her daughter. And then when I came back to teach at that same school, I taught the daughter that she was pregnant with at the time.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome. Oh, see.
Yeah, and it just came full circle. So I'm one of those people where I have to be heard. Like, I just have to be heard. I grew up in a family full of boys. On my mom's side, there were no girls. I was the first girl since her. There's been one girl since me. Like, it's we are, short on girls. And so it's hard to really be heard with boys because you're not allowed to be emotional. And so poetry gave me that outlet, that opportunity to finally say how I felt, because I'm still like that to this day. At some point, I'm going to tell you how I feel. And I will patiently wait for that moment to tell you how I feel, but it has to be said because I have to be heard. And poetry gave me that.
And it's so significant because when we think about our power of why, the why drives us to want to be seen. The why drives us to want to be heard. And this is coming from an introvert. I'm somebody that I love being behind the scenes. I love being the person pushing everybody else to get things done. But because of my why, I'm like, no, I'm going to be the face of the brand. I'm going to do podcasting. I'm going to do speaking on stages. I'm going to publish as many books as I can on the road to 100. But that why, when you're truly like invested in it, it pushes you to want to be seen, to want to be heard, and it pushes you into opportunities that give you just exactly that, to be seen and to be heard. And so when it came to your poetry, and even when it came to your the oh my goodness, the fact that you were writing plays so young, that is like blowing my mind right now. Who was the first person that you shared it with?
So I want to say the first person that read one of my plays was my granddad, and my grandmother still has some of them in her dresser drawer. She still has some of my very early writing. And with poetry, I didn't really share it that much at first. So, because it's so personal, how Erica Badu, in her song says, but I'm sensitive about that was me and poetry. So I kept it close to me. But my students pushed me to put it out there. And it's interesting that you say that you are an introvert, because in my heart of hearts, I am. But my why is why I am not, why most people don't believe that about me, because of the why. So when you have those parents who like to volunteer you for everything, you don't get to be an introvert. You don't get to be an introvert. I get volunteered to this day to do things that I don't necessarily want to do because my parents think that I should do it because, I have all the answers. I get lots of calls and things. And so because of that, because they were always pushing me out on stage, okay, so you all the old school things, you're going to get this reference. And in Living Color, remember Little Magic?
Yes.
Kept putting Little Magic out there. Like, that was me without the whole Little Magic look, but they were always pushing me out in front of people, pushing me to talk to strangers, to do something that I wasn't prepared to do. So that alone, that's the reason why I'm not an introvert. Like, well, I am, but I guess in my personal life, because outside of business, I enjoy silence. I enjoy solitude.
Come on. They said when they said we were going into quarantine, I was like, let me go on and get my snacks together. I ain't.
Listen, snow days, bad weather days were my best friend, because that was my total excuse not to leave the house. And I had my kids that way. I mean, we were in the house for a good 3 months before they started to even complain a little bit, because they just are conditioned. They're like, okay, so we got everything. We got snacks, we got games, the internet still work. I will watch the same Christmas movie 100 times. What are you talking about, you bored? No.
They don't understand. But I love that, because when we, this is part of the why that people don't talk about. And listen, Kimberly said it perfectly, is that it drives you to the front. It drives you to the stage. It drives you to have a mic in your hand. It drives you but there's also going to be some people that see something in you when you are moving and taking action, because I'm quite sure that if you weren't doing those things, then they probably wouldn't have pushed you as much. They wouldn't have put you out there, because they would have tried to figure out what it is that you were trying to do and pushed you in another direction. But you got to make sure that you're tapping into that too, Speak Easy podcast listeners, because you do have some people around you that are pushing you in a direction closer to your purpose, because they see something that you may not see.
Yes, as an adult, I realized that. As a child, I was just annoyed, but 100%,
Exactly.
100%, you just have to, I don't know, you at some point, you just accept what is. It's like, okay, so this is a gift. Let me use it, because, and that was how my poetry got out. Students kept reading it and they were like, oh my God, this is so good. Like, why aren't you published? Why aren't you published? And so that push, that's 100%, because the why always goes back to your purpose. Whether you realize it or not, your why is aligned with your purpose and you fuel it with your passion.
That's it right there. And so I go back and I look and I go, man, I started writing back in middle school. I'm writing poetry, writing stories. And I still have some of those, sitting to the side. I was going through some of my books and my daughter said, Mom, what's this binder? And I kind of looked at her and was like, my poetry. And she was like, your poetry from where? From when? Middle school. She said, oh, are you serious?
I know. Like, it's hard to let it go and see. At least you have yours in a binder. So my introductory to poetry came with more of the classical poets, but I fell in love with Emily Dickinson because I could relate. My best work is on the back of an envelope. It's on the back of a Starbucks napkin.
I had some of those as well.
Those are the best poems. You give me a full sheet of notebook paper and crickets, but let me find an envelope or a napkin or an old postcard, and I'm telling you, I'm squeezing every word possible on there.
Look, writing sideways and crooked at an angle.
Yes, it just flows. There's something about those little random pieces of paper that hit me at random moments. And so my friends are so used to it now that if we're in a restaurant and all of a sudden they see me pull out a pen, they're like, she finna burst something great. Let's get ready. It's coming. Because when it hits me, when I have those moments and it's just like, this is the moment, I have to put it down. I'm gonna hold on, let me wait till I get back to my computer so I can type this out.
That's awesome. It's funny because even when you think about it, Speak Easy podcast listeners, when you think about your why and your purpose, the spur of the moment stuff can be absolutely phenomenal. The spur of the stuff that it's not planned, it just comes and flows, is amazing. And it's in those moments where you find your strength. I did not realize that I really had a strong ability when it came to speaking, because when I took college courses for speaking, they told me no. They told me that that wasn't my lane. Stay in whatever lane I was in, but that wasn't it. That wasn't the one. And I remember going to an event, and I originally had 45 minutes to speak, and then 2 minutes before I was supposed to speak, they told me I only had 10 minutes. And like, while the person that was with me at the time, my assistant, she was like spazzing out because she's like, oh my goodness, is that okay? Like, I'm good. And I was able to do the speech in less than 8 minutes. Blew everybody's mind away. Everybody's like, oh my goodness, you just like your 7 minute and some odd second speech was so powerful. Like, how did you do that? And it's those things that once you learn your strengths, your superpowers, that's your why drives your superpowers. Once you learn those things, oh, you can tap into it and just, man, blow people's minds away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And having all of those little magic moments as a kid, it taught me to think on my feet. And so my brain is always working, the little gears in there are turning. And so honestly, I rarely read any questions that are sent to me early on. I never write a speech down because it's when you are in that moment, you have those authentic moments where you are very transparent to your audience and people connect with you. And so that's something that I hear a lot. It's like, oh my goodness, I really, could connect with your story. It was so real because that was my authentic story. It wasn't something that I rehearsed. And it's not anything against people who do that, because there are people who do it and they're very good at it. I just know that that's not my gift. God gave me the gift of gab, and I used to joke because he knew that I was going to get on my mom's nerves and I had to be able to talk myself out of it real quick.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh my goodness. So this conversation is going amazingly well. And I always ask, so everyone that has been coming on for the Power of Why series, is how has the power of why impacted your business?
So the power of why is, honestly, it has been a real game changer for me personally and business wise. So I was part of the first Power Why. The second Power Why is still amazing, but it is allowing me to connect on a level that I had not really thought about. I knew I had this gift, but I hadn't really thought about how the gift got honed. And, in being a part of this Power Why, it has tapped into that and reminded me. It has also allowed me to really stay focused on the purpose and the mission of my business. Whether, we're talking about family, friends, strangers, because that is something that had always been a struggle for me. It has allowed me to realize that business can be personal. Business doesn't have to be business. Business can be personal. And when business is personal for you, your business thrives on a greater level.
That part, oh my goodness. So many times we hear people talking about how you have to separate life and business, and oh, it's two separate things, and you can't worry about this, and you can't do, and I'm just like, there's no way. Like, they're intertwined. There's no way for you to separate life and business at all times. Yes, there are moments where I can shut down business and just deal with life. Yes, there are moments where I can shut down life or partially shut it down and just deal with business. But the reality is they're still very much intertwined.
Absolutely. There's a reason why no one is rooting for Mr. Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. There is a reason why, in all of those movies where you have the banker who is like, okay, it's just business. And then you have the sweet family who's about to lose their home, because dad broke his leg. There's a reason why everybody's rooting for the dad with the broken leg. It's because you don't want to feel like you're spending your money on someone without a soul.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Woo, you don't want to feel like you're spending your money on someone without a soul. Speakeasy podcast listeners, I hope you caught that. If not, press the button with the two lines, press that, and then press the rewind go back, write that down, and put that on your mirror, put it on a sticky note and stick it to your laptop, because you are okay if they go and overlap. If there's nothing wrong with you. You are okay if they are intertwined. You are very much normal. There is nothing wrong with that at all. So Kimberly, oh my goodness, this has been amazing. Let the studio audience know where they can find you at online, and also how they can get in contact with you if they would like to purchase the book or get some tips when it comes to the poetry or some plays.
Okay, wonderful. So you can find out all things Kimberly Lawson on my website, www.kimberlylawson.net. My links to my social media, YouTube, podcast information, everything is there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at Lawson-Learning-Academy. So definitely would love to connect. If you have questions, you want to buy books, you want to just chop it up with me, let's talk poetry, I'm here for it.
I love it. Oh, goodness. So all of that information is going to be in the show notes as well, guys. Make sure that you tap in. Why? Because we want you to elevate in life and in business. That is why we are here. That is what the hashtag Speak Easy podcast is all about. But guess what? It's all about you. Why? Because guess what? Without the Speak Easy hashtag, Speak Easy podcast listeners, there would be no Speak Easy podcast. So join the conversation. bit.ly/World Voice Community is how you can join the free Facebook group. And we would love to hear your tips, resources, or your ahas from this particular episode. And if you can't do that, then by all means, you can always go and leave us a review and tell us how you felt about this particular episode. With that being said, I am your host, Alcides Pelzer, your voice manager. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.